Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as we know that we are covering the center state relations, and basically these are the topics we have scheduled for the discussion under this particular series, like starting with the introduction part, thereafter the legislative relations, thereafter the administrative relations, thereafter the financial relations, then the trends in the center state relations. Okay, so that is the scenario. We had finished the introduction part, the legislative relations, and basically what we are discussing upon the administrative relations. All right. And what we are left with the financial relations and the trends in the center state relations. All right. So we will start from where we had left in the previous lecture. All right. So that's the topic which we were planning to start in this lecture. Okay. And the topic name is All India Services. But before this, let us remind several things so that we could make our pace again in this lecture. All right. So basically, we had in the previous lecture discussed that whenever we talk about the center and whenever we talk about the state. All right. So the center having its own legislative powers and basically administrative, or you could say executive powers, right? That's what we had discussed. Similarly, whenever we talk about the state, then the state having its own legislative powers and the executive powers. All right. That is what we had discussed. And basically, we had discussed that if they both are separated, then there are chances of conflicts arising between them, right? That's why we had discussed that they are basically intergovernmental, intergovernmental, all right, and not fully separated. Okay, that is what we had discussed. Okay, even there is another thing what we had discussed, that there is a transfer of executive powers, right? That is what we had discussed. Like first, the power lies with the president. Second, the power lies with the parliament. All right. So when the president wants to transfer some of the central executive powers to the state legislature, so basically, no consent of state is required. All right. Sorry, consent of state is required. So the consent of state government is required. But when the parliament does the same thing, the parliament transfer the executive power of center to the states. All right. Then basically the consent of state is not required. Or we could say no consent of state is required. All right. That is what we had discussed in the term of transfer of executive powers. All right. In the case of president and the parliament. All right. And now what we are going to see after doing this little bit revision, that basically we are going to see the intergovernmental form, intergovernmental form, what we were discussing in the previous lecture. All right. So we will continue it from here. So basically when we talk about the all India services, okay, so we could see Like in any other federation, the center and the state also have their separate public services, which we call as the central services and the state services respectively. It means that the central services are basically responsible for all over the country, while the state services is only responsible for some respective state. All right. Thereafter, in addition, there are all India services, which we called as an IAS, IPS, and the IFS. The member of these services occupy the top positions or the key positions under the both the central level and the state levels and serve them by turns. But they are recruited and trained by the center. All right. It means that basically when we talk about the public administrative services, okay, when we talk about it, so basically like any other federation, basically the center having its own central public administration services, right? Similarly, the state having its own. Okay, they both having their own. But in addition to that, basically we having the services what we call as an all India services. Okay, so the question is, how does the all India services are different from the public administration services of both the center and the state? So basically, if we talk about the public administration services, whether they are at the center level or at the state level, basically they are responsible for their respective area. Like central is for their central area and the state is for their state area. But when we talk about the all India services, then basically they are responsible for both. Okay, responsible for both, whether it's a center level or the state level. All right, and we could say that basically serving them by rotation. It means for few years they are posted under the state government, for few years they are posted at the central government. But remember, there is an important thing. However, they serving the both by the rotation, but they are recruited and trained by the center only. Okay, they are recruited and trained by the center only. All right, and these services are controlled jointly by the center and the state. It means that when they are put under the central control, then the central government will govern them. But whenever they are in the state government or under the state government, so the state government will govern them. The ultimate control lies with the central government, while the immediate control rests with the state government. Why? Because we know India is divided into the 28 states. Okay. So if any person who is serving as an IAS, IPS, and IFS in any of these 28 states, then its immediate superior or the senior will be the state government of that particular respective state. However, they will have the ultimate superiority and the authority towards the center. But when they are under the deputation of the state government, then the respective state will have the immediate subordination to him. All right. And basically, you could say that these are responsible to support the central government until and unless they are not posted under the union territories. Why? Because the union territories are directly governed by the central government. Okay, the central government having that direct controls over the union territories. So whenever the IAS, IPS, and IFS, any of them posted under the union territories, then their ultimate superiority and their immediate superiority is the same. It means the central government. But whenever they are under some states or under these 28 states, then their immediate superiority will give to the state government, and overall superiority lies with the central government. Okay, so I hope these lines are clear to you. Let's move ahead. Okay, so basically, when we talk about the 1947, the time when we got independence, the Indian civil services, which were introduced by the Britishers, okay, and the person who brought the concept to the India was Lord Cornwallis. Okay, that's why he is known as the father of civil services. Okay, he was the British Governor General of Bengal, and he was the first person who brought the concept of civil services in India. All right. So when we got independence in the 1947, so basically the East while British East Indian civil services were replaced by the two new names, IAS, and the Indian Police IP was replaced by the IPS. Okay. So you could say the Indian Civil Services. ICS replaced with the Indian Administrative Services. All right. What we also called as an IAS. All right. And the another one, which is Indian Police, that is basically replaced with the Indian Police Services, IPS. All right. So that is the thing which was happened in the year of 1947 when India got independence. All right. So these two changes were happen on that time. And basically after this in 1966, the Indian Forest Services, IFS. Please keep this thing in your mind. Whenever we talk about the All India services, we have the three services. Okay. Indian Administrative Services, Indian Police Services, and the last one was Indian Forest Services. These are the all India services. Mostly times I have seen people that they got confused in between the IFS. Why? Because in the terms of all India services, the term IFS stands for the Indian Forest Services. Okay. And whenever we talk about the central services, okay, so the word IFS stands for the Indian Foreign Services. All right. So please keep this difference in your mind. Okay. IFS stands for both Indian Forest Services and the Indian Foreign Services. But the Indian Foreign Services is a part of Central Civil Services, while the IFS or the Indian Forest Services is basically the part of All India Services. So that's the sharp difference between them. Okay, so when we got independence in 1947, only we had recognized two types of all India services, IAS and the IPS. Later, that was a time period of 1966 when the Indian Foreign Services was created as the third All India Services. Okay, remember this thing. Thereafter, we had the Article 312 of the Constitution, which authorized the Parliament to create new All India Services on the basis of Rajya Sabha resolution to that effect. It means that right now we having the three All India Services. If the Parliament wants to create more, then by the power of Article 312, they could do it. But in such a case, the Rajya Sabha resolution must be passed. Why? Because as I have told you many times, the Rajya Sabha is basically the representative of states. All right. Thereafter, each of these three All India services, okay, irrespective of their division among the different states, form a single service with common rights and status, uniform scales of pay throughout the country. It means that basically where or you can say wherever they got posted, as in IAS, the IPS, and the IFS. Okay, they are not entitled to get any differentiations in their service condition, in their rights and status, in their paying scale. Okay, it means that there is a uniformity in all of these because, as I have told you, they are, however, posted under the different state governments, but still their ultimate supremacy is the central government. Okay, thereafter, the third point. Though the All India Services violate the principle of federalism under the Constitution by restricting the autonomy and patronage of the states, they are supported on the ground at. So, why it is written down that the principle of federalism is basically violating? Why? So, basically, if we look at this thing, then all over the administration of the states, they are maintaining by the IAS. The policing, which is the part of the state list, okay, they are maintained by the IPS. Okay, the forest, which is a part of concurrent list, but still the center is exercising its control over it through the IFS. So it means the major portion of the state and the executive actions of the states are falling under the powers of these IAS, IPS, and the IFS. Okay, so basically it is a clear cut violation of the federalism, but still there are some grounds on which these could be supported. And what are these grounds? First, they help in maintaining the high standards of the administration in the center as well as in the state. Okay, it means that if we talk about the administration, okay, then this having the uniformity, and basically you could say if any person of this country who is living anywhere, he moved to any other place, so the administrative purposes are moreover the same. It means that the depreciation is minimal. Okay, so that the citizens of this country could be facilitated properly. Thereafter, another thing which we could see here is they help to ensure the uniformity of the administrative system throughout the country, as I have told you. And the third point is that they facilitate liaison, cooperation, coordination, and joint action on the issues of common interest between the center and the states. Okay, and thus the aim of the intergovernmental form is being achieved. Okay, because on the three key areas of administration, areas of policing, okay, areas of natural resources or the forest, both the center and the states are coordinating with each other through the process of appointing the officers at the All India services. Okay. Thereafter, while justifying the institution of the All India services in the Constituent Assembly, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who was also the drafter of the Constitution, observed that the dual polity, which is inherent in a federal system, is followed in all federation by a dual services. It means that the central executive services and the state executive services. In all federation, there is the federal civil services and the state civil services. That is what I have just told you right now. Okay. But the Indian Federation, though a dual polity, will have a dual service, but with one exception. It means that in India also we followed the dual polity and that's why we have the dual service. But there is an exception. What is that? It is recognized that in every country there are certain posts in its administrative setup which might be called strategic from the point of view of maintaining the standards of the administration. Alright, there can be no doubt that the standard of administration depends upon the caliber of the civil servants who are appointed to the strategic posts because they are the one who will carry out different operations to maintaining the peace and harmony between the center and the states in the matters of administration, the policing and the natural resources. The constitution provides that without depriving the states of their rights to form their own civil services, there shall be an all India civil services or all India services, okay, which were being recruiting on a all India basis with some common qualifications, with uniform scale of pay, and members of which alone could be appointed to those strategic posts throughout the union, so that the ultimate aim of scoring the uniformity would be maintained and ensured. All right. Thereafter, the Public Service Commission. In the field of the Public Service Commission, the center-state relations are as follows. First, the chairman and the members of a state Public Service Commission, though appointed by the governor of a state and can be removed only by the president. Okay. Thereafter, the parliament can establish the Joint State Public Service Commission JSPCS for two or more states on the request of state legislature which are concerned. The chairman and the members of JSPSS are appointed by the president. Okay. The third, the Union Public Service Commission can serve the needs of state on the request of state governor and with the approval of president. So if we try to decode all these three areas, what we will see that basically if we talk about the State Public Service Commission, which is responsible to appoint the civil servants at the state level. So the chairperson and the members of this commission, they will be appointed by the governor of that concerned state, but can only be removed by the president. It means the governor is only having the right to appoint them, not having the right to remove them. Thereafter, another thing which we could see here, the parliament can establish a joint state public service commission, JSPSC, for two or more states. Okay, when the concerned state legislatures will request. And the chairman and the members of the JSPSC are appointed by the president. It means that when there is a joint public service commission for one or two or more states, so basically the governors of that states not having the right to select the chairperson and the members in order to avoid the any conflict between them. In such a scenario, basically the president having the right to appoint the chairperson and the members. Thereafter, the Union Public Service Commission, which is usually or you can say mainly responsible for central civil services. Okay, to appoint the persons at the central civil services. So the Union Public Service Commission could you can say serve the needs of the state. Okay, if the state governor of that particular concerned states makes the request to the UPSC, and the President of India basically allows the UPSC to do so. Until or unless the things are not done, the UPSC is not allowed to help any particular state or any particular area. All right. So students, basically in this lecture we had finished till here. In the next lecture we will continue from here. Till then, just revise all the facts and figures which we have discussed in this lecture and be ready for the another lecture. With this note, let's end this lecture, and what we say thank you.